Blood and Wine is a roller coaster of emotions, and while it might not benefit from a story as great as the other DLC it's always compared to, Hearts of Stone, it still shines in many other ways, making it an unforgettable experience. In this video, I want to talk about everything that makes Blood and Wine such a great expansion, and why, in my opinion, it's the perfect ending for the trilogy. The expansion was released back in 2016, and while it's been out for a while now, my first time experiencing it was only in 2020. That was actually the moment when I finally finished my first complete playthrough of the game, including the DLCs. Fast forward to now, I just finished my second playthrough of the expansion, and I feel like it's finally time to make a video to discuss my thoughts. Today I'm going to solely focus on the main quest because I've not yet done all the side content, but it's definitely something that I plan to go back and finish in the near future. Alright, so it all starts when Geralt is made aware of a contract proposition from the ruler of Toussaint, Anna Henrietta. Her illustrious highness shares concerns about a monster that is killing people and could require the work of a witcher. Shortly after, Geralt arrives in Toussaint, and I've got to say, the second we step foot in this new region, the first impressions are really good. The tone is very different, so I could understand why some people might be worried or just straight up not enjoy it as much, but it's clear from the beginning that we are in for something totally different. It's something that's achieved through various means, like the accent of the knights, the aesthetic of everything that's surrounding us, or even the music.
Toussaint, the land of love and wine.
Exactly how I remembered it.
You will find Beauclair's changed some these past years.
From there, the events quickly unfold in front of us in the early hours, with multiple fights and characters being introduced. There's a lot to sink our teeth into, and I think it does more than enough to completely capture the attention of the player. Similarly, we progressively learn more and more about the contract and the murders, and it contributes really well to the very strong opening that this expansion has. Simply put, it's non-stop action and progress in what feels like an all-new world. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about the music. I'm a big fan of the music in general in The Witcher, actually more than I would care to admit. But yeah, the music in this expansion, beyond being of high quality, it's just used in a wonderful way. I know music is mostly used in games to help in making the player feel strong emotions, but I felt like in Blood and Wine they took that and made it like even better than in the rest of The Witcher 3, and certainly better than in any other games I have experienced before. I mean, when I was walking in the streets of an attacked Beauclair, I was stressed, and if I was in the land of 1,000 fables, it truly felt like it was magical. It just suited the places very well.
Order them to produce as much vampire oil as they can, churn it out in gallons. Then coat your blades with it. Keep an eye out for Alps and Bruxelles. Good thing you posted that notice. Never would have found you otherwise.
Again, I know what I just described is the purpose for music in games in general, sure, but I never really felt it to that extent for such a long period of time. It truly was one of the things I appreciated the most from this expansion. Similarly, the overall scope of this expansion is absolutely mind-blowing. There's more content in there than there is in some full games. I mean, sure, I've not done all the side content yet, like I said before, but I can already tell that there are things to explore in every corner of the pretty big map. You pair that up with the new mutations and character progression, new enemies, completely new aesthetic, a good story, and complex and interesting characters, and you have a masterpiece. Personally, when I think about Blood and Wine, I instantly think about Regis.
I remember your mandrake hooch. Made people say things they'd have rather kept to themselves.
Now, what could Geralt of Rivia prefer to keep to himself?
Everyone's got some secret.
I agree wholeheartedly. I also believe it wise at times to share one's secrets, unburden oneself to those one can trust.
This your sophisticated way of asking me if I trust you?
I prefer almost always to ask indirectly. It seems a test of intelligence, one you just passed.
Regis is my favorite character in the expansion, and I could go as far as to say that he is my favorite character in the entirety of the game, right after Geralt. There's something special about the relationship between Geralt and Regis. On one hand, a monster hunter, and on the other, a higher vampire. An intriguing duo already, but also Regis is just very well spoken and smart, resulting in a very intriguing character that's entertaining almost every single time he speaks. Speaking of well spoken, Regis' character benefits from the best voice acting in the entire game in my opinion, which is just a cherry on top really. Now as for Dettlaff, he is an interesting antagonist, but he simply is not on the level of someone like Gunter Odin, for example. Don't get me wrong, I still think he's a fantastic villain, if you even want to call him that, but he won't be the most memorable villain ever. Except the boss fight, but more on that later. Additionally, Henrietta, Sienna, Damien, they're all amazing characters, even if sometimes I wanted to punch some of them.
At times, I hunt foxes. Do you know how it works? The ducal huntsman releases the hounds. They catch the fox's scent, chase the animal down, and lead the battue to it. All within an hour.
Okay, now, I know I said I would talk a bit more about the Detlef boss fight, but do I really have to add anything? I think just showing some moments from the battle will speak for itself, really. It's probably the best boss fight in the entire game, at least in terms of how epic the boss is, and also the story that is told at the same time as the fight progresses.
Any gods, start praying now.
Leave him to me. Be gone.
Now, as always, I want to talk a little bit about the locations and places that we get to visit throughout the expansion. Most of it is simply breathtaking, it's very colorful and vibrant, apart from some infrequent exceptions, such as the Shamutna or Regis' hideout. It's also important to mention that if what you wanted going into the expansion was more of the same, as I said earlier, you know, something more like the rest of the game, then you might be disappointed, but if you wanted to explore some new and fresh locations, Blood & Wine definitely achieves that. I would even say almost to an extreme extent, but I personally enjoyed it a lot. Now, earlier I mentioned that this expansion does not benefit from a story as solid as the one in Hearts of Stone, and now I want to expand on that a little bit. I think that Blood & Wine executes its ideas in a better way. It feels more polished and almost as if more resources went into making it, which I think is likely. You know, you look at things like the Land of a Thousand Fables, the attack on Beauclair, the Detlef boss fight, it's all very high quality, and yet I did not feel like the story itself was as deep or compelling. There was some good action and it was always very intriguing, just not in the same way that Hearts of Stone was. I guess I could say I did not feel the same depth, and that would apply to many areas of the story. I really enjoyed the pacing though throughout the entirety of the DLC. It's non-stop exciting action with big moments every few minutes, it never really stops. Anyways, I also wanted to say that I plan to make a Blood & Wine versus Hearts of Stone video in the future. I think there would be a lot to compare there and a lot to talk about, so I don't know, maybe tell me in the comment section if that's something you'd be interested in. Now back to the story, even though it's something that's been talked about before in the Witcher books, bringing back the Curse of the Black Sun was something interesting to explore in the game. Actually, it fascinates me that to this day, Geralt seems to still be hesitant on if he believes in the curse or not. And that really helped in giving Sienna more intrigue and making me feel more sympathy towards her. Before moving on, I also want to talk a little bit more about Regis again. I thought every story, including him, was absolutely god tier, but I'm probably biased because, you know, I'd be willing to do the frying pan quest like 100 times just to spend more time with him, so take it with a pinch of salt maybe. But honestly, most of the moments spent with Regis were some of my favorite in the expansion, and I really hope we get to see him again in the future games. Finally, let's talk about endings. In my playthrough, Detlef did not kill Sienna, Regis killed Detlef, and then both sisters lived. Honestly, I'm not sure I got the best endings here. Let's be honest, there are a lot of messed up people in this expansion, especially Detlef and Sienna. For Detlef, I think that he deserved to die. I mean, you don't attempt to destroy an entire city because your lover betrayed you. And clearly, throughout the DLC, we see that he does not deal with his emotions very well, to the point where he is actually a dangerous man. As for Sienna, I think that her actions might be explained by a troubled childhood and potentially the curse as well, but is it really enough to explain everything? Additionally, what she did to Detlef was kinda messed up. Your rough childhood does not mean you can hurt and take advantage of everyone else. I'm very torn on what her fate should be, but I think ultimately maybe prison for a while might be the best thing for her. I think that what Geralt said here sums up the situation pretty well.
Bitterness consumes Sienna. She had cause to resent many of the court of Beauclair. I know her reasons, understand them even. But I can't condone the actions she chose to take.
My only problem is that while yes, prison would serve as a punishment for the severity of her actions, I think that if the second she comes out of prison, she still attempts to kill an Henrietta, I don't think she deserves to live then. Not once did I feel like she was ready to forgive her sister, and that's what makes this decision a bit harder. But in the end, when she decides to accept an Henrietta's hug, it truly feels to me like something changes in her. The smile on her face is pretty telling actually, and I think it's genuine because with the other ending, we clearly see that if Sienna wants to kill her sister, she would do it right there, so I think in the end, letting Sienna live is something that I am okay with. The ending is also tragic for Regis. His life is just completely changed forever. He just lost one of the most important person in his life, Detlef, and he also needs to move to a different location, Nilfgaard, in order to stay safe. The fact that Regis was ready to do all of that for the good of Beauclair and its people and to help Geralt really shows that he cares about humans in a way. He cares about doing what is right, and that he will not let his brethren abuse their power for bad reasons. Also, honorable mention to Damien for going from what was one of the most annoying character to finally a reliable ally that's honestly not too annoying. Big improvement. Progression there was definitely satisfying and enjoyable.
Thank you, Witcher, for alerting me, and I appreciate your attentiveness. Let's begin the ceremony. Come with me. The Duchess awaits.
And then finally, the famous final scene. A fascinating discussion between Regis and Geralt. Obviously, we know that the ending is probably near, but we hope it will keep going for a while. And then Geralt looks at the camera, looks at the player really, and that's so epic. It just makes me emotional every single time.
So we shall, my friend. We have witnessed, and in fact on several occasions incited, many great and weighty events. After all that toil, I believe we deserve a bit of a rest.
That we do.
Overall, it's a perfect ending for a trilogy that has quite literally changed my life. Geralt gets to retire with the love of his life, in my case, Yennefer, and he can take some well-deserved time for himself at Corvo Bianco. That's if he does not feel the urge to go back on the path soon. As always, thank you so much for making it to the end. I had a lot of fun making this one, and I really hope you enjoyed. Please tell me what you thought of the expansion in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all soon in a new video. Bye bye.